Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5R podcast. I'm here and Greg isn't, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, Greg, where are you, bro?
What the hell? Nobody wants me starting this thing off, for God's sake. We're just going to start out with an ad here. Okay. There is a lot that happened in the last week, Dr. Offense. We lost to a Sunbelt team. We fired our head coach. Accusations have been thrown left and right. Media members are backing away, running away, disappearing from Twitter, while others are coming forward. Where would you like to start tonight, Haas?
Well, I have a nice list of notes on different topics. The first is relevant to the game that we lost to a Clay Helton coach Georgia Southern team. Actually, three topics, sorry. The second topic is I have a list of 13 coaching candidates that if I was Trev Alberts, I'd start at the top of the list and work my way down. And then lastly, the critical factors of what I think a good hire looks like, what in their background.
Wow.
I'm not going to get too deep into schematics because if you know how to teach it and you hire good assistants who can teach it and you know how to lead a program and you recruit well and you develop, anybody can be successful. I'm not going to get hung up on scheme. I don't care about hiring a guru this go around. I want the best football coach and program leader that we can find.
How many times are you going to say spider, why banana?
Well, ideally, I would absolutely love to have a new offensive coordinator that doesn't have the spider 2 why banana verbiage in their playbook. I would like to be up tempo and run fast, so one word play calls.
Like boom?
Like New England Patriots, their 4 verts play was Bama 6. So all you got to do is communicate at the line of scrimmage as everybody's getting set. Boom, you go. Make your adjustments.
You know what? You're going to start in 1 second. I'm going to take this comment real quick.
All
Sam
right.
Manny says, John, I thought there was no hope. Well, there wasn't. Until Sunday morning or Sunday or whatever the time frame was, which they said, goodbye, Scott, goodbye. You've conned us long enough and taken enough money. And now there is kind of hope because I hope that the cancer has been cut out of our program and we can go forward from here all together. Joyous, hand in hand. Although I hope you've washed your hands.
I got to say this, and this is going to sound really bad of me to say as a Husker fan. When that kick sailed left, at first, my first initial reaction was anger. And then my second, immediately after that, I realized what you said once upon a time, John, about Byron Bennett missing the field goal against Florida State. It doesn't even matter.
Right.
At that point, I thought it doesn't even matter. And when I was trying to fall asleep on Saturday night, I had my TV just going through YouTube. I was watching clips from highlights around the country. And what was recommended to me? The Scott Frost hiring press conference from December 3rd, 2017. So I got a good laugh sitting there watching that for a few minutes before going to sleep. There is hope now because the long con is finally over.
Hey, look, another guy came and joined us. Who's this guy?
Fashionably late again, huh, Greg?
This is the week that my wife's out of town, and so I'm single parenting, and I just got the third child upstairs in bed. Fingers crossed that we're not interrupted by the pitter-patter of 6-year-old feet. So
I think
what I missed. Anything happened? Anything exciting happened in the last 2 days?
Yes, witty banner.
We thought you were late because we thought you were out drinking with Scott Frost. Margaritas, in Scottsdale. Maybe
I'm not that connected.
Bush lattes at Big Sandy.
It would never be Bush lattes. It would be Coors Banquets before it's Bush lattes.
Oh, why you got? Oh man.
What? I just complimented you, right?
In a roundabout, very backhanded way.
No, and tonight, because I took some flack last week for A, being late and showing up with a beer. This is 100. Well, you can't see it. This is 100% dihydrogen monoxide. So,
Are you cooking meth in your spare time?
no, I'm drinking ice water.
Oh,
Josh is right.
Scott doesn't drink fancy enough beers to hang with Greg.
That's the fact. I'm a beer snob. Josh knows this because he's to blame.
Ah.
Well, Haas, before you got here, Haas outlined the entire show, and I was just going to be quiet and let him start talking.
I have a lot of notes, as you
He has notes.
kind of see. I'm like Jimbo Fisher with his 10,000 notebook pages on the sideline. Do you guys listen to the Josh Pate podcast, Late Kick, that I recommended?
No.
No,
He has the greatest analogy for Jimbo Fisher. One, he's on the sideline literally with like 1,000 notebook pages in front of him. Not a single play sheet, just like a bunch of pages. And he runs an offense that expired in 2014. That's why you only muster 9 first downs against a defense that gave up 63 points in the week.
Wow.
And I think Greg just expired.
Okay, start talking about the Georgia Southern game. Wasn't it the first thing on your list?
We're going to start with the defense.
Okay.
Again, I'm getting to the point where I might be known as Dr. Defense now instead of Dr. Offense. Back to the topic of last week, AFC, automatic front coverage. Yeah, it's pretty evident that we don't use one in our defense. And that is really a lack of instruction during the week and a lack of preparation. If you notice, when we're on defense, we don't align in any way to get an extra defender to the offensive strength. We're not +1 anywhere. We keep our safeties deep and too high. We like to have 4 down or 3 down with a stand-up linebacker. Linebackers perfectly spaced out. Nobody's mugging up to the line of scrimmage. Nobody's covering down completely on a slot receiver. We're leaving too much space opened up. So when we would try to align that way, perfectly balanced, they'll hand off inside the box and they'll be able to rip us for 7-8 yards. When we do try to fit into the box, that's what she said. What'll happen is they'll hit us with a bubble screen on the outside or a jailbreak screen. We need to get more aggressive defensively, and we also really need to change up our defensive philosophy and being more aggressive. We need to incorporate more one gap. Yes, John.
Okay, we have gotten rid of the head coach. Is this an Eric Chenander problem, do you think, that we're not lining up properly, or is this a Scott Frost told me to do this thing?
What I think is it's both. One, I think Chenander's probably very risk averse, like most defensive coordinators are. Don't get beat over the top, like we talked about in the podcast leading up to the season. Don't get beat deep. That's the number one philosophy. That's why we play so much cover 4. The other reason, and I do think it could be an edict from the head coach. Hey, let's play conservatively. Let's try to keep everything in front of us. We don't have the edge rushers to, really get creative in the back end with our coverages, meaning, edge rushers, you can get pressure just with 4. You can blanket the field with exotic coverages. So it'll be interesting to see if Mickey kind of takes the governor off of the defense, if it's not just Chenander's own risk-averse philosophy. And I would love to see us start mixing in some one-high coverages against OU and getting an extra defender into the box and doing some more one-gap principles. We do a kind of weird thing with TGOG, TGOG, 2-gap, 1-gap, which I'm not going to get into without having a whiteboard here. Damn, OU fan on the prowl here. But yeah, so without having an AFC call built into the game plan, we can't play anticipative defense. We can't anticipate what the offense is doing. We can't get extra numbers at the point of attack. And then, beyond that, basically, we're really going to be in a tough spot against OU because they're going to really want to run and have an RPO attached to it. So you really have to get disruption. You really have to get numbers to the point of attack, and you got to destroy blocks. Bob Diaco's favorite block destruction.
I'm going to jump in here as Josh had a question about the one high defense. Is the last time we had a one high defense when Randy Gregory was around, or have we seen it more recently?
We didn't run it at all with Randy Gregory. We were still very much two gap on the defensive line, two high safeties. We were running that Bo Pelini, pattern match coverage, quarters out of a cover two shell. More recently, we saw Mark Banker ran it a lot because we were basically a 4-3 over front with cover three pattern match behind it. That's why you saw Nate Gary running so many, fitting against the run so often in 2016, which he played a hell of a game against Wisconsin. That is a great joke, by the way, Josh. Another commenter said, "How is our eye discipline as a defense?" That is a great question. Teams don't really pull a whole lot against us. They don't pull linemen very often, so I'm not really noticing linebackers getting caught looking in the wrong area. What's disconcerting about that, though, is they're able just to kick our ass off the line of scrimmage with drive blocks, base blocks, running just duo and inside zone. And you're seeing, Alabama and Texas Tech transfers on the defensive line getting pancaked by a bunch of guys from Statesboro, Georgia.
From YouTube, our YouTube feed, living in Omaha, David asked, if we're not tackling in practice, what exactly were we doing in practice? Which is kind of a fair question.
That is a great question. They're probably doing a lot of mental reps. They're probably doing a lot of thud ups where, they're not going to the ground, and you don't get ready for a football game by not tackling to the ground. You're not doing it every day. This isn't the Junction Boys in 1955, but you do have to prepare. You have to condition yourself physically and mentally for tackling and taking people to the ground. And the OU fans in our comments section, man. I know John told me to ignore the comments last week, but Frost never missed one tackle. He was here for almost 5 years. At some point, everything is his sole responsibility.
Okay, Georgia Southern.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, do you think? I mean, the defense was. Why did they just score 45 points and we look like an idiot?
We never adjusted to anything they were doing. We never tried to get +1 against the run. We never tried to, devote a single cover down, an outside linebacker and nickel just covering a screen. It was always, you might have to fit against the run if it's coming your way. And you also might have to be aware of this bubble screen or this hitch route. So you might fit into the box, then you might have to backpedal late back into coverage. And when you got a great athlete like JoJo Doman at that spot, he'll cover up a lot of crap that goes on. But when you're breaking in a few of those new Sam nickel linebackers and they're not as good of athletes as Doman was, that's a big problem. Clay Helton drew circles around Scott Frost. That's something back in 2017 I thought I was never going to say.
I want to. That's a good question. Josh asks, when's the last time we won the turnover battle and still lost? I mean, there were a lot of, dare I say, streaks that were broken Saturday night in Lincoln. Anytime a Scott Frost led Nebraska team to score 35 points or more, they were victorious. I can't think of them all. That's one of the big ones. You could go on and on about the one-score games, but it was. It's a good question. I don't know. We actually win a turnover battle, which we don't do ever. Like, it's not a. I went from watching the Nebraska game Saturday night to watching the Steeler game Sunday afternoon, and that Steeler defense came away with, I think, 5 or 6 turnovers. But Nebraska has not for a while been a ball hawking defense.
No, and was it Marquez Buford had both the interceptions? If I recall.
Yep. Yes, I believe so.
He had a rough start against Northwestern a couple weeks ago. He is going to be a great safety by the time it's said and done at Nebraska. He is going to be very good. So that was good to see. But aside from those interceptions, we didn't get a whole lot of disruption on defense. And disruption that's what leads to more turnovers and sack fumble, fumble at the line of scrimmage. So it'd be nice if we could have gotten some more disruption. And I think if it would have been more of those kind of turnovers, the game probably looks a lot different. I'm not saying anything horribly insightful here, but it is what it is.
I like how Josh and Josh are having their side conversation about streaks.
Yeah.
And
I want some good collaborative learning going on here.
I want to talk. So when it's the third quarter of Saturday night's game, I think I had put something on Twitter on the 5 Heart at the number 5 Heart podcast on Twitter is where I watch the games and share my thoughts and things like that, good and bad. Oh boy, it wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't as much good as there was bad. But I said, look, we all know what's happening on at the end of the third quarter in that commercial break or quarter break. I said, but let's just keep the lights on, and because it was tough to and here's the thing, and Brent Venables in his weekly post conference, he gave I guess respect or special nod to us Nebraska fans who continue to show up. We're the perennial fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me 5 years in a row. We're a glutton for punishment.
We're the Chicago Cubs of college football.
Oh God. That makes me sad on many levels. But as fans, we continue to show look, that's why Coronation exists. That's why the 5 Heart podcast exists, is because we're all so passionate. And when the game ended, when the clock struck zeros from the 5 Heart podcast Twitter, I said, you know what? Let's not wait anymore. I pulled a GIF from the late '90s Matt Damon, Edward Norton movie Rounders. It's John Malkovich as the Russian, and I'm not going to do his bad Russian accent, but he says, "Pay that man his money."
I'll do it for you.
I said, "Let's
his money.
let's go." We didn't know. We didn't know that less than 12 hours later the announcement would come down. And initially, I was like, "Oh yeah, gosh, that sucks. It sucks for him. Because as much as frustrated as we were, and as much as we all knew we needed change, we all wanted Scott Frost to be the guy, right? I mean, we all wanted the golden child to come home, and to lead us back to the promised land. And it wasn't meant to be. And then when there's that separation now, when Scott Frost is out, and maybe we'll get to it, but more and more stories are coming out that you're like, oh, maybe. And I don't know. I doubt that any of this was addressed before I got here, but it's like, God, maybe this needed to happen sooner. Maybe there needed to be a deeper restructuring to make sure that we weren't paying $15 million buyout, after week 3.
Yeah, when you've got a head coach who doesn't involve himself with the game plan process leading up to Illinois in 2021 because he's out drinking and gallivanting and till sunrise, and then he says that there aren't plays on the play sheet for an odd front, and Matt Lubick fires back and says, "Yeah, there are." That's a pretty big sign of institutional failure from the top. I mean, it'd already be bad enough to work as a name only offensive coordinator in college football, but if you're doing all the game plan work, your head coach isn't doing it, and then he throws you under the bus because he can't figure out what to call on the play sheet on Saturday because they come out in an odd front. I would quit on the spot. I'd basically, that's me in his shoes. I'd tell my boss, hey, GFY, pal.
It's we had a couple of good questions here. One about Chenander, and remember that when Scott Frost came here at the end of the 17 season, and we have Brian asking, what are the odds with the bye week coming up? Chins might be packing his bags after the Oklahoma game because Scott Frost was loyal, I think we can say with the benefit of hindsight, to a fault, and brought his entire staff from UCF. And I don't envision a scenario where there's just not some type of, deep-seated conflict there,
Yeah. To address that comment about where the chances of him packing his bags, John will probably know the song by Dan Fogelberg, Changing Horses. You don't change horses midstream. You've already had enough, you've had enough upset within the program. Who's going to step into that role? Bush is a good safeties coach, obviously. Coach safeties for Aranda, like I pointed out last week. But in terms of really communicating the calls in and being responsible for the game planning, I think you got to keep Chins all the way to the end of the season, and you part ways with them on, I don't know, Saturday, the last Saturday in November, and you just go from there. And because do I trust Dawson to call the defense? No. Fisher's never been a coordinator.
Is there any chance of fixing this?
What's up?
Is there any chance at all of fixing the defense? Let's say before Big Ten play.
You could change your philosophy defensively. You could start to get into being a little bit more one high safety, one gapping more along the defensive line. But I think the big problem is we're just not preparing the guys very well Monday through Friday. The game planning, the film, getting guys to anticipate what they're going to see from certain formations. Very rarely, at this point in the season, you'll see it more, but as we go in deeper in the season, very rarely do you actually see an unscouted look, maybe 1 to 3 times a game. So it's not like, they're just throwing, you're seeing new stuff every week. You see a certain formation at a certain spot in the field on a certain hash, you can start to play into those tendencies a little bit. We don't anticipate anything very well defensively. When you see trips to the boundary, you should be anticipating they're probably going to try to isolate that single receiver to the other side against single coverage, and you should be slinging a weak side linebacker underneath of his route, or you should be bringing a safety over the top to help out if it's going deep. We don't anticipate anything very well because we stay so freaking static at all times. We don't want to tip our hand one way or another, so there's just loads of real estate on the field that the offense can gobble up. We're getting beat by pre-snap alignment. Aligning the right way is 1/3 of the battle. It's alignment, assignment, and execution. If you can align properly and you can execute your assignment, the only thing left is, basically, are you a better athlete than the athlete you're going up against? If he's a better athlete, okay, he wins that matchup. It happens. I could want to beat Usain Bolt in a 100-yard dash. I can want it all I want. I'm not waking up tomorrow and beating him in a 100-yard dash, if that makes sense. So,
how did it get this bad? Do you think?
Well, honestly, I think it's always been this bad.
Yeah.
It was covered up last year with a lot of guys who had NFL potential and guys who had been in the program. Some of these guys were 6th-year seniors. At some point, just the repetition of going through it kicks in, and you're able to, know what you're doing. But now we're breaking in new pieces all over the board. We haven't recruited all that well defensively, especially at the linebacker spot. The linebackers, I think, are the biggest weakness on the defense. Barrett Ruud might be the worst assistant coach in the history of Nebraska football. And come on, this is not a job. This is not a place where you cut your teeth as an assistant or you cut your teeth as a head coach.
Now, do you think part of the problem is because at UCF they just played? I mean, that whole conference is scoring.
Well, yeah, and that's where their entire philosophy came from.
Right.
Get on them early. Get into onto a 21 zip lead, 24-3. Take away their run game. You're not doing anything to take away their run game. You just take it away because they're in a hole. Now they got to throw. You can stay back in deep coverage and just protect against the deep ball, and you know what they're doing constantly. The only time we've seen that work at Nebraska, the one time, is 2018 Minnesota when we jumped on their asses 28 zip right out of the gate. And they had a lot of good backs on that team. Muhammad Ibrahim was a freshman. They had, number one, Rodney something. I forget his last name. But they had some serious dudes. They couldn't run the ball because we got on them early. But that's the one time that it worked out here.
So if we're going to win games going forward, we're going to have to run the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah, and you actually
successfully.
Yeah, and I just want to address Matt Faust's comment real quick. Love Barrett Root as a player. He is not a good coach. And segueing into the offense, a nice identity emerged against Georgia Southern. Anthony Grant's one of the best backs in the entire country. We haven't had a back like him, like I said last week, since Amir. And A.J. Allen, that vision that he has as a freshman is a testament to how good of a running backs coach Brian Applewhite is. And Brian Applewhite's another guy I'd like to see be retained on a new staff because I think his recruiting in the state of Texas and just what he's done with these running backs so far is huge. But I loved what we were doing to incorporate the inside trap play out of the shotgun, and Grant could bounce it, either take it right inside the trap or bounce it outside. And using Thompson on designed runs, that's the kind of quarterback that you want, a guy who throws first and foremost but can move around a little bit. And then I still think Smothers should be brought in as a situational guy, short yardage, red zone, goal line, wildcat package. And the wideouts, I think you saw how dangerous they are on yards after the catch. Again, it goes back to incorporating more of a spread passing game than a pro-style passing game and going back from there. And Josh Hansen, run a counter. It's America's play. Everybody runs it, baby.
Were you just now reaching for a can of Copenhagen?
No, I had my pen. I was pointing to Josh.
I want to say this. I just want to say this out loud. In what frickin' world is it acceptable for a head coach to stand on the sideline chewing and spitting during a national broadcast?
I mean, it's football. A lot of coaches do it. You ever see Mike Zimmer from the Minnesota Vikings with his pouch of Red Man?
He sucks. He was a crappy coach and he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I looked at Frost and I thought, what the hell? You look like a guy that just showed up and didn't bother to shower before this. Yeah, I don't know. I think it matters. I don't think you should look like a bum unless you're Bill Belichick and you've won 18 Super Bowls.
Yeah, if you're at the pinnacle of your profession, you can dress or act however you want. And Josh Eberhardt, gut it like a man. Yeah, I used to gut chew spit when I'd be sitting in college classes because I'd forget to take one out and didn't have anything to spit in. And it'd be uncouth to spit into a bottle in a college classroom. So I'd gut it.
We have a lot of questions about the future. Matt asks, do you think Mickey can make enough adjustments to win some games and possibly sneak into a bowl game?
Yeah. If you can make we're at 1 win right now. If you can make adjustments to beat Indiana, that's 2 wins. Rutgers, 3. Purdue's gonna tune us up like a piano. Steal one against Illinois. Go balls to the wall against Minnesota to hit 4 wins. Wait, would that be your 4 or 5? God, you gotta have to take down Wisconsin and Iowa, and then maybe see what we can do against Oklahoma. I know these OU fans watching this live stream are really gonna hate what I just said there, but never say never. But if we can sneak into a bowl, I'd absolutely love that. I think there's enough talent on offense to do that. But I had somebody ask me the other day at work if Mickey went 9-0 and we were in Indianapolis on the first weekend of December, if he would be retained. And I said, yeah, not only would he be the head coach at Nebraska, he'd basically be Jesus Christ.
That is true. Minnesota, we just need to get a 14-point lead and maintain it, not onside kick.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. That'd be ideal. And not let Muhammad Ibrahim, just run through us like shit through a tin horn.
So what was next on your list?
Well, I was going to talk about Frost and the Lubick situation, but we already addressed that.
Well, let's get to one of these questions. How do you think the play calling dynamic will work between Mark Whipple and Mickey Joseph? Do you see more passing like in Northwestern and the first half of the North Dakota game? I almost think if I could, I hate stepping on your toes, Hoss.
Go ahead, you're the skipper.
No. These things are. Sorry. I come from the vantage point of you got Anthony Grant and it's working. Why wouldn't you lean into that?
Well, that's actually what I was going to say. I'm glad that you said that. An identity emerged against Georgia Southern. Anthony Grant's one of the best backs in the country. A.J. Allen, hell of a player. A.C. Thompson showed that he can run on designed runs. I would really lean into that as being the identity. I think Mickey will let Whipple do his thing. I think that a guy like Whipple reaches the point that he has in his career by being pragmatic and not, just wanting to get out there and spray the ball all over the yard. I mean, that's been his calling card historically. He loves the passing game. But at this point, it's the Apollo 13 mission. Let's do what we have to do for success, strip it down to the nuts and bolts and find out what works. And I think you saw what works very well on Saturday. Will that translate to success against Oklahoma and the teeth of the Big Ten, and Big Ten defenses? We're a little weak up front offensively to really, be able to lean on that. But I also think that if we can really start to lean into running the ball out of the spread with RPOs attached to it, I think that this could be a pretty serviceable offense.
Oh my God, I had a question and it went away.
Meyer, no.
Okay. Between Mark Whipple and Mickey Joseph, he's just going to let Mark Whipple run the offense, isn't he?
Yeah, I would have to assume so. Mickey's never been a play caller in his entire career. He's got a lot that's just been heaped onto his plate in the past, 4 or 5 days. I think he needs to just focus on managing the game, in-game, and running the program. And so I think, if you want to run a trick play, you want to go for it on 4th and 1, God forbid you want to call an onside kick when you're up 28-17, well, that's the executive decision of the head coach. But I don't think he's going to get involved with the play-to-play calling of the game. And David Gertis, did we hear the rumor about Frost ghosting Dylan Raiola? Yeah, I heard that Frost also loves a lot of margaritas.
Oh, dear God. Okay, should we bring up – we need to bring up the Mike Ells thing.
I feel like people are just trolling me now about Craig Bowl.
Yeah, I do want to address that clip, that video, John, that came out from Severe, and it painted HCSF in not the best of light. And I think in the last few days we've heard more and more of these stories of maybe somebody who wasn't behind closed doors, wasn't who he appeared to be in public. I don't mean that to be like shady, but you guys know, Hoss, I think you both know a little bit more of the ins and outs of this, but something about not necessarily always being around at practices, and or is that what you were going to get into a little bit with the Lubick situation?
Yeah, I was going to get into that and talk about Severe, saying he'd show up late for practice, and just he put on a presentation to the public of who he was, and then behind closed doors in his day-to-day life, he acted a different way. And some people might say, well, that's his personal time. He can act however he wants. Well, most people aren't making $5 million a year. Most people aren't the face of a university, let alone the entire state. And you've got 8 months of off season interspersed with recruiting and spring ball, of course. But you've got 8 months of off season and $5 million annually coming into your bank account. Do all the stuff you want to do in the off season. That's why I thought it was very interesting when Trev said, he wanted a coach with no hobbies. The great ones don't have hobbies. And that's true. The great ones have a singularity of purpose, and they have a rage to want to master their profession. They want to be elite. You're not going golfing 3, 4, 5 times a week if you want to be at the top of your profession. You're not drinking till dawn. If you're a salesman, high-level salesman, let's say, you're not ghosting a big-time client because you flew into town and drank too many damn margaritas. And if you did, you're finding a way to get an Uber over there and you're sobering your ass up pretty quick on the way over. It's to anyone who's ever watched The Sopranos, I'm a huge fan of the show. Phil Leotardo says Anthony Soprano has no respect for this thing. Well, it's pretty evident that Scott Frost had no respect for this thing. Scott Frost was all about what Scott Frost could get for himself. And I started hearing some of the stories back in 2019, didn't want to believe them. And then, at some point there's just too much of a groundswell to ignore some of the stuff. And this is what led us to today, or Sunday, more apropos. You have to be focused on the job at hand. It's a consuming job. That's why Nick Saban will not hire Scott Frost to go to the Nick Saban School of Rehabilitation. He doesn't have the work ethic. He doesn't have the respect for the game. And that's pretty evident.
Do you think his career is over?
I think he'll sit out for a couple of years. I do think that. And I think if he was smart, he'd go get himself either a Pac-12 offensive coordinator job where he can live in relative anonymity, because most people on the West Coast, they're not going to be able to pick out their school's offensive coordinator when he's out to dinner or having a few drinks. Or go back down to Group of 5 and be a Group of 5 head coach, where football is a nice little pastime on campus, but it's not the big fishbowl that it is here. If you want to live your life that way, the best way to go.
I'd like to say something to some of the comments. Listen, and Haas can corroborate this. We all know the comments about coaches with cheerleaders, coaches with boosters' wives, coaches with some golf girl. Listen, 99% of the time, those things are bullshit. Those same rumors come out about every coach in every program everywhere. You can go back through time. Even Nebraska we have said the same thing about Frank Solich to the point everybody believed it. Carl Pelini, same problem. Pete Carroll at USC, Tom Turman at Texas. All of these coaches have this rumor shit with women. And what I have to ask you guys honestly about that is, why do we have such a bad fucking attitude toward women that we think that they're just going to... What the hell is with you people that you think all the cheerleaders are just whores, that they're going to go out with head coaches? That's just dumb. So if you're going to bring up rumors in the comment sections, bring up rumors that are about job performance, and keep the bullshit about whether he cheated on his wife or screwed a cheerleader. Keep it somewhere else, because it doesn't belong here. And it's those rumors are, they belong on, I don't know, a show. I don't even know what shows are on now.
TMZ.
Yeah, there you go. They belong on that kind of shit. But
Jerry Springer.
Stop spreading them. They're just bullshit. Okay, carry on, gentlemen.
There was a comment that Matt Faust made about this job overwhelmed Frost, and that's a fact. And I do agree with Matt that I do believe that the job overwhelmed him. And that was one of the big reasons why back in 2017 I didn't want to hire him, because of the small sample size of a head coaching career at UCF, and just beyond, can he sustain this success long term over a period of time? It was, is he experienced enough to deal with the fishbowl? here, because as a player at Nebraska, I mean, he was talking about that stuff years down the road from when he played here about how he was treated, and it just seemed like it was a situation where, hey, is this guy, really cut out for this gig? Would it be a better idea if we hired him down the line if he continued to be successful while he's more experienced at dealing with being such a big face in the public arena?
Okay, what's next on your list, Toss?
I have my coaching candidates.
Oh my God! Of course you do. Go.
Yeah.
Before we do that,
Before that, do you want me to get into the critical factors of what a successful candidate would look like?
not yet. I want to address a few other things from the comments that we have. Let's talk about them because we talked about streaks before. What about the notion or the possibility that, hey, he had to go, otherwise fan support was going to start checking out?
Oh God, I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's a huge thing. I'm the only one who's local around here. Greg, you're in Illinois. John, you're up in the Great White North of Minnesota, and people around here aren't. It's not the rabid following that I came to know when I first became a diehard fan in 2002. From 2002 probably up to 2012, maybe 2014, coinciding with the firing of Pelini, people were rabid. Now people are a little bit more, I don't want to say divorced from it because people still care, but they're not as rabid about it. And so I think that was a big part of it because, I mean, that sellout streak's been on life support for years. I mean, it's artificially inflated. When Iowa fans say that, I'm like, yeah, I don't like Iowa fans, but yeah, they got a point. It is artificially inflated. And you know what I care about more than a sellout streak? I care about winning games.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the only streak that I care about. Our traditions didn't make us great. The traditions became great because we were great. And that's what I loved about Trev Alberts saying, championship habits. I have a master's degree in educational psychology. Big part of that's how you develop expertise, develop talent, how you accomplish, anything within a domain. And what that is the component skills, the day-to-day building of being successful. Not we wore black practice jerseys, so our defense should be great every single year. Well, to hell with that. Our defense should be great every year because we have a defensive coordinator that knows how to game plan, recruit, and develop guys to play at a high caliber of football. So, flush the door. Flush the door. Wow, I've mixed up some axioms there. Flush the toilet, slam the door on the past, and move forward. It's like, we got some OU fans in our comments section. They went through the same crap through Gary Gibbs and Howard Schnellenberger and John Blake up until they got Bob Stoops. Alabama did the same damn thing. They kept trying to recreate Camelot for 25 years. And then finally it took Mal Moore saying, enough's enough. Let's just go get our guy. We don't care what Bear Bryant's grandson says anymore as a board of regent. We're going out there and we're hiring the best because we want to get back to what we used to be. So there we have it. Flush the door. Row the boat and flush the door.
There's your new shirt, John. Hashtag flush the door.
Flush the door. I'm not even sure what that means. But let's move on. You can explain me too. Is that new phrases these kids use?
No, I mixed up some axioms between flush the toilet and close the door. I said flush the door.
Okay.
Anyone who's in speech language pathology knows that's called a spoonerism.
There was a comment that I had highlighted here, and then I couldn't pass up the flush the door about the negativity from the fan base and how it trickles into the coaches and then the players. I can see where you get some boo birds in Memorial Stadium and they can hear it, but I feel like the fan reaction is a reflection to the product that we're being force fed.
Oh yeah. We're not going to sit there and it's like for a long time I felt like our AD saw us just as easy marks. They'll continue to fill up the stadium. They'll buy the gear. They'll travel to watch the games. They'll fill up Folsom Field. They'll go to Ireland. It's kind of like Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake, And at some point, you just get fed up with it. You want a good product on the field. And, yeah, we all want national championships. We all want those. But at the end of the day, I would start to settle for 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. Maybe one year you have a lot of people graduate, you have some injuries, you dip down to 7-5, but you're constantly working to overcome the obstacles, overcome your shortcomings. Instead, we got served the same pile of gruel week in and week out for almost 5 seasons. It wasn't even like TV dinner. It was basically like prison food. You're sitting there and you're eating and you're like, how can I get excited about this when I see this game over here and I see this coaching staff coming in year one and they don't go 0-6 and they don't make excuses about flipping the culture and they don't pile on, the former staff and they don't make false accusations about how the old program, the old strength conditioning coach didn't have them lift. That one of which really pisses me off because I was at the Riley coaches clinics in 16, 17. I stood next to Mark Phillip and Cleet McLeod and Jamie Belt as players were squatting in the weight room. And then Frost comes out with this players don't lift. It's like, come on, man.
With regards to negativity affecting the actual team, I don't think that's true.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
Sorry.
I think that that is true when you have a dysfunctional team like Scott Frost. People don't trust their coach, so other things start to come into the program. But I think that, when you're a football player, you play for your brothers on the team and you play for your coaching staff. You don't play for the fans. I know they're supposed to say, I love the fans and it's great to see the fans. But if the moment that players start playing for the fans, everything's lost because we're so damn fickle that, if you fart too loud or you say the wrong thing or during a loss, if you're standing on the sideline, laughing and they take a picture of you, you freak out. I would never play for the fans.
I will say this.
That doesn't exist.
I agree with you, John, but I will say this. The fan support is the only thing that's kept this program on life support for the past 20 years. It's the only thing.
It is, but we shouldn't.
And we are fickle. Yeah. I can tell you as a Husker fan and a college football fan in general, I am a vindictive son of a gun. If I can't be happy as a Husker fan, nobody else in college football deserves to be happy. I'll root for pure anarchy and everybody to lose, and I want them all to be miserable just like me. I'm the anarchist of college football.
Okay. I'm going to put one up.
Okay.
Sam Matney, Scott lost, Scott fraud, one score Scott, which is best? Those are all very good. Here's the thing. Let's go on. Are
you doing your?
We have a new head coach. We have a new head coach, and we have basically a new season. So I don't know. I guess we can call those, Frost, whatever we want. But I guess I'm kind of, quite frankly, tired of him.
So should we move into my list of critical factors?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's do that.
First and foremost, built and sustained success, whether that's as a head coach or a high-level coordinator, because I do have a coordinator on this list. Who have they been around? What centers of excellence have they worked at? Have they played at? We thought we had one with Scott Frost, being around a lot of big names in the game: Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, Bill Walsh, Tom Osborne. I guess that's kind of a moot point. How long have they been doing it? Again, Frost had too small of a sample size at UCF. So, there needs to be years of deliberate practice at what they're doing. No hobbies, singularity of purpose, have a rage to be the best in your profession. Yes, Greg.
You said years of deliberate purpose, I believe?
Practice.
Deliberate practice. Also, to borrow some of your fancy college words, years of empirical evidence.
Empirical evidence, yes. Like, don't sell me on Mike Riley would have done great at a school if he had more resources. I don't want to miss me with that one. I'm not going down that road again. recruiting. They have to have an emphasis on recruiting. This is, contrary to popular belief, Nebraska did not dominate college football for 40 years with a bunch of guys from Ainsworth and Anselmo and, Du Bois, Nebraska. We supplement it with good walk-ons, but we recruited nationally. We always recruit nationally. We recruited Texas, Louisiana, the East Coast, California. We always got the top guys out of a lot of different places. Program builder and manager, they have their finger on the pulse of everything. They have to be a little bit psychotic, like Nick Saban, how he is talking to the janitors at their football complex about make sure the floors are swept and mopped a certain way, because it's the first thing recruits and their families see when they walk in the door. Adapt or die. Don't hold on to like Jimbo Fisher and an offense that expired like a bad jug of milk back in 2014. Adapt or die. If you're starting to see your scheme get exploited by somebody in conference that you coach against on a regular basis, you got to start adapting. No cronyism. Nick Saban, when he took the job at LSU and he left Michigan State, he didn't bring a single staff member from there with him because they didn't have any recruiting ties to the South. They were all Midwestern guys. So bring in a staff of guys that you trust, that you're going to work well with, guys who can recruit well, guys who can teach your scheme, guys who can develop players, and get out there and make something happen. Because if we don't have any of those things, this is why coaching searches use consulting firms, because they'll go through all this stuff and they'll find out who's the best fit. I mean, Gallup here in Omaha was the one that identified PJ Fleck for Minnesota. So you got to, when Trev said that he's going to use an outside consulting firm, I thought that's good. Have somebody else helping you on that coaching search, and you're not operating it in a silo like Sean Eichhorst when he had Mike Gundy and Kyle Whittingham calling for the job in Fit 14, and he goes with Mike friggin' Riley from Oregon State.
It also, when you get an outsider's perspective, you don't get I'm going to use a word, I'm probably going to use it wrong, but you don't get that nepotism type approach. Like you're not married to somebody who has ties to the program. I mean, 5 years ago, every Husker fan loved Scott Frost. And after 5 years, not too many Husker fans love Scott Frost. So there's a relationship that's now from both directions is tarnished. It'll never be the same. So maybe it's not a bad idea to get somebody who has zero ties to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, ideally, zero ties. Bob Devaney may have never set foot in the state of Nebraska before 1962. This weird obsession, and we're a small populated state, and Nebraska by nature is a very parochial place because we have a small population. This whole obsession with a Nebraska guy, he doesn't need to be from Nebraska to be a Nebraska guy. To be a Nebraska guy means, being the kind of coach that we used to have in Tom Osborne. Adapt or die, constantly working to overcome the inherent disadvantages that this program has geographically, and putting together a team that's ready to go compete on the biggest stage. Have you ever been to Ames, Iowa, though, Trav? It's pretty hard to recruit there, man. Lincoln.
It's a neat little town. It is a neat little town.
In my defense, I was trying to highlight a different comment, and then the thing jumped on me, so I apologize.
All right. Now time for my candidates. All right. The first three are 1A, 1B, 1C. You keep offering them money until one of them says yes. Dave Aranda, Luke Fickell, Lane Kiffin. You got Dave Aranda, great defensive-minded coach, hires a great staff at Baylor, goes 2-7 his first year, fires his offensive staff, brings in a good offensive staff. And he's very highly regarded in terms of his coaching philosophy and the way that he teaches defense. Teaching, preparation, that's the key there. 1B is Luke Fickell. You can't argue with the success that he's had at Cincinnati, building that program after the dumpster fire that was Tommy Tuberville. 1C, Yes, Greg.
Any concerns about Luke Fickell not being able to overcome certain obstacles when he was at Ohio State?
He was an interim coach for 1 year, taking over after Jim Tressel fell on the sword. That's pretty excusable. What's not excusable is Joe Boserman spraying the ball. One seed, the rightful heir to the Nebraska throne, Lane Kiffin. I'm a big Lane Train guy. If nothing else, I just want to see the press conferences. Great recruiter. I've watched a few things about him since he went on his rehabilitation circuit, starting with Saban. I don't think he's the same dick as he was at USC. Number 2, Matt Campbell. I think Campbell's a hell of a coach. I know people in the comment section have mentioned him. I think that he proved that he can win with subpar talent, and I love his defensive coordinator, Jim Heacock. He really brought in that 3-safety defense into the college football world. Fitting extra safety against the run. I think that in the right situation, that he would be a very good recruiter. Number 3, Matt Rule. What he did at Baylor after the Fryles scandal, I think that he would be a huge hire here. This will get some of the dander.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
He looks like an Ewok. Okay, move on.
He does. I'm not going to argue that. This will get some dander up. Number 4, PJ Fleck. I don't care what you say about his personality. He'd kill it here. He'd absolutely kill it here.
You've said 2 names tonight that have killed me now. You said You have said Sean Eichhorst earlier, and my heart rate dropped to like 4. And now you mentioned PJ Fleck as a Nebraska coach.
You know what, guys? I didn't like PJ Fleck for a long time. And then in the past few years, I've noticed this guy can coach. He can flat out coach. And talking to a lot of Minnesota fans, I'm sure like you do, John, his personality is annoying, but it's genuine. His players love him. They'd run through a brick wall for him. He recruits well. I think PJ Fleck would kill it at Nebraska. I'm not going to say Brett Bielema. Don't worry.
Okay, you know what? Every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., I have a Zoom meeting with one of my customers, and you know what I was greeted with this morning?
Row the boat.
I was greeted with 5 people who had all changed their backgrounds to really bad photos of Scott Frost, including one photoshopped of Scott Frost pouring a giant glass of bourbon with a really ugly look on his face. That's the abuse you take when you live out of state and Nebraska becomes what we are, which is a laughing stock across the nation. So they had a royally good time with me.
I'm sure they did. You know what? All's fair in love, war, and college football fandom. I can't wait to get back to the point where I can actually talk trash to an opposing fan base. Like, I'm going to Iowa City on Black Friday this year, and I'm like, how am I going to respond to some smart, witty remark? Because I got nothing. I got nothing anymore about this program. Number 5, the Bob Stoops type hire when he was defensive coordinator at Florida and went to OU, Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. I think Leonard would be a solid coach, plays great defense. And then this is the point where it's a mix of shoot your shot and also we struck out. Chris Kleiman, Lance Leopold. See if Mike Gundy's still interested. Give Dave Doran a call at North Carolina State. And lastly, this is like we really effed up. Bill O'Brien, Alabama offensive coordinator.
I don't know if he
I don't want O'Brien anywhere near this program. Yes, he can recruit. I think I mentioned that on previous episodes. He can recruit. What he did at Penn State in the wake of that scandal was impressive. But if you get on like some of the national college football message boards and read about how much Bama fans that understand football hate O'Brien for what he's done to their offense, you'll understand. Because they got a Heisman winner. They got a Heisman winner at quarterback and their offense is one of the most poorly called offenses in college football. I mean, they basically run 4 plays. Yeah, they're more supremely talented than just about any other team in college football. But man, watching their offense, there's no rhyme or reason to its play calling.
I want to Sweet Trav 20, who's been with us all evening long and has outed himself as an Oklahoma fan, and that's okay. But I say that with this comment here, Nebraska fans, I'm pulling for you not this weekend for obvious reasons. Really want you guys back, and we appreciate that. However, he's also been talking about one name that you neglected to mention in your coaching, wish list.
Oh, Urban Meyer.
And some of his thoughts on Herbs here. I mean, I think it's Urban Meyer in disguise, guys. I think it's Urban Meyer trying to get a job.
Is he sitting there typing this on his phone while, a girl at the bar is dancing on his lap and he's got his fingers,
I don't know about that one. But it's, every comment that he had included some reference to Urban Meyer. So I just wanted to point that out because that was not a name that you had included on your list. It's like in the movie Gladiator when Joaquin Phoenix is confronting his father, and he says, when I was a child, you wrote a letter and you included all of these attributes that would make a good king. He's like, but I was going over the list and I realized that I didn't have any, but I had other names, Father, like ambition and courage, etc. So it's like you had a list. Sweet Trev had a list. There's not a whole lot of commonality on that list. It sounds like his list is one name.
Well, I want to address a few things that Trav said here. First of all, that Bob Devaney did the same stuff. He did. Smartphones also didn't exist back then. Stuff like Title IX and, campus awareness, administrators and high-level faculty members sleeping with students, that stuff didn't exist back then. It exists now. The other thing, Trav, I'm assuming that you're an OU fan, hence your rooting interest this weekend. I'm not going to say anything about what Bill Callahan said back in 2004 about OU fans because you're a good fan. By and large, OU fans have always treated me well at the Nebraska-Oklahoma games I've been to. And Legends on Lindsay Street in Norman, great place to get a bite to eat.
I asked
we have a Haas, our travel guide as well.
Great chicken fried.
Doctor offense and travel.
And
I asked that
would turn us around, but I mean that guy leaves every program he's ever left just in absolute chaos. I mean, Ohio State, Ryan Day's a hell of a coach, but I mean, look what he did at Florida. And I mean, let's not even get into his Jacksonville Jaguars time. That was bad.
I asked Ramsey Nasrallah from 11 Warriors about Urban Meyer, and he said that he has a shelf life of 5 years wherever he goes. He would win. His wife, Shelley, probably wouldn't move to Lincoln. And he would have good assistants because they'd all know that they'd win and move up because of his winning. But you get
selling your soul there. I think there are better coaches with more longevity and less problems out there.
Well, Trev Albertson is, when they asked him, what were you looking for in a coach? His first criteria was man of character.
I mean, when I heard that on Sunday, I was like, all right, you can officially cross Urban off the list.
Yeah.
And look, am I saying that if Urban got hired here, I wouldn't support the hire? I wouldn't support the team? No, hell, I'd be excited because, he would do those things. But I just think that all in all, it ends up being a bad idea.
I'd carry a lot more hand sanitizer with me.
it's the Sweet Trap says it's the mutually beneficial package. We can turn his image around at the same time he turns Nebraska around. Yeah, I don't know. That's a bone to chew on.
Yeah, like there are some points here that, Urban's one of the GOATs, he's top tier. There aren't better coaches. There are potential better coaches. But what it really gets down to is, do you want to see us be in the same spot within 5 years? You want to see us be in the same spot where we're searching for a new coach within 5 years, because that's generally how it goes. And I can't believe I'm seeing the day that Nebraska fans are embracing Urban Meyer.
I'm not quite as old as John, but I never thought I'd live to see the day.
I mean, this would be like Nebraska fans wanting to hire Barry Switzer if T.O. would have bounced for the NFL or something.
All right, here we go. Coronation for coach. John, you're clearly our CEO style press conference man. Haas, you're Dr. Offense for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
You'd be in charge of recruiting.
Oh, God. I can't get enough people to watch my other podcast or listen to my other podcasts through marketing, so don't put me in charge of any marketing. I'm horrible.
And all you would go after in recruiting is those 5-heart walk-ons from Anselm, Nebraska.
I want to say, shout out to Brody Belt. God bless that kid. Where would we be without him? Don't make that sound, John.
Would I meet the man of character part though?
Yeah. We would do it like the New York Yankees. We're gonna make you get a haircut and shave.
Well, screw that.
all of us have beards, so I don't think we're gonna be filling this staff.
No, my wife was pretty sincere when she said, "Don't ever shave again." Like shave it all. So
yeah, you probably look like you're about 12, bro.
Not with this gray hair, sir.
That is pretty gray.
Yeah, but at least I have some Haas. All right, we're getting off topic.
I'm not gonna argue with that, man.
Look, we can speculate coaches in the future, but Brett has a question from much earlier in the show. I hope he stuck around to get an answer. What do you think is the biggest single factor for the absolute meltdown on defense? How does the defense go from keeping us in every single game last year to being bottom 10 nationally? I think maybe perhaps not the biggest single factor, but last year we had all the super seniors. We had a lot more guys with reps. They had a lot more and things that we kind of talked about already. But we had guys who were NFL ready, NFL caliber, NFL quality. And extra, extra time in the locker room. So that's my take. Haas, I as always defer to your expertise.
Yeah, between the super seniors and the fact that we had a lot of NFL caliber talent on that defense last year, guys who were either in the league or were thought well of enough to the point to get a free agency or a training camp tryout. Guys like, Damian Daniels got cut by the Texans, but he should have stuck around for another year because he dominated Tyler Lindenbaum in the game against Iowa. Ben Stille is on the roster with, the Miami Dolphins. You had JoJo Doman's with the Colts. You had Cam Taylor-Britt. You had Markel Dismuke, and you had Deontay Williams. So these are guys that were talented. They had familiarity with the scheme. They could cover up a lot of deficiencies within the scheme. And now we're breaking in a lot of new players. And also, Chenander's shift from the tight front with 3 down linemen to more of a 4-2-5 look. I think that there's a lot of issues in guys not being up to speed on, executing the calls, in addition to just bad defensive play calling in general.
I guess for me, it's going to go back to still the dysfunction thing. I think if people don't have faith in each other, if they don't trust each other to do their jobs on the field, it doesn't matter what your scheme is. It doesn't matter what your coach teaches you. The team doesn't work. And that's where I have the hope that Mickey Joseph can somehow motivate this team to, I don't know, at least win 6 games or 5 more games so that they can get to a bowl. You know what? So that they're fun to watch. Just, if I was a Minnesota fan, Saturday night against Georgia Southern would have been fun, because I would have just ended the game and went, oh well, we'll get them next time, whatever. But 45 points to a guy who came into a program that ran the triple option and a few months later turned it into we heard all this stuff about how many years it would take to build a program, and Clay Helton in a few months brings a up-tempo passing offense, blows our doors up, walks away with $1.4 million. I know I've said that before, but that should stick with people. The fact that he actually did that. And then, no, it doesn't take forever to build a program.
Well, that's the thing that I look back on through, like, when we started 0-6 in 2018. Oh, you got to flip the culture. You got to flip the culture. It's like, culture is bad. It was a losing culture. Yes, it's not 0-6 bad. I mean, we should have known the second we lost to Troy in 2018. And instead, nobody asks tough questions. Nobody calls them out to the carpet. And yet this is, there's a lot of nepotism and hypocrisy within Nebraska football.
Can I right there?
What's up, John?
Okay, the Mike Elsevier stuff came out. You listened to Damon Benning's program, and he said some stuff. Tell us what that was.
Yeah, Benning was basically saying to people on Twitter, like, shout out Husker Twitter. When they tell these stories now that he's out, it's, well, why weren't you the watchdog while he was coaching, and why didn't you let people know? And he's like, because when he was coaching, and we said this, it'd be, why do you not like Scott? Why do you hate the program? He's like, so basically he's saying, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's the same thing. Like, the stories will always come out about people after the fact. But, our media, they'll crucify a decision, by, I don't know, I'm just using an example here. It was a bad play call, but Danny Langsdorf against Iowa in 2015 on 4th and 3 for throwing a fade route to Brandon Riley. Yet they refuse to ever ask Frost the tough questions when he's throwing screens to Jack Stoll on the goal line against Purdue using Wandale Robinson as a lead blocker in 2019. It's got to cut both ways. That's all I'm looking for here, Instead, we pick and choose.
Yeah, I guess I look at the Nebraska media and I think I think we both know more stories are probably going to come out as time goes on, but I guess I feel like they've lost a lot of credibility. So maybe that's my shot at them.
When you got the Nebraska administration and, calling the World Herald to force feed Frost articles down everybody's throat in the fall of 17, that really primes the pump there for all this to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't lionize a coach before he's coached a game at your university. That's the lesson to take away from this. I mean, we did it with Bill Callahan too. Remember the West Coast offense shirts that look like the West Coast Choppers logo? I mean, the reborn with the B and the O capitalized, And yes, Bill Moose was the worst hire Nebraska could have ever made.
That Troy game, I was down on the field for that game, and it was 125 degrees on the field that day, and I was at one end of the field. Oh, come on, the guy that ran Hale Varsity is a friend of mine, Aaron
Babcock.
We both have our long lenses up, and we see down the field. And literally there's a hole because they motioned our linebackers out of the way. And there's a giant hole. And we both put our cameras down after the play is over. And he looks at me and goes, both of us could have ran through that hole.
I know exactly the play you're talking about too.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh my God, why does this take so long to figure this shit out? And
done it all the way back then.
Hoss, I have to ask you, I mean, you and I go back on the podcast now 5 years, And it was the Minnesota game that we did the immediate that night reaction. And you remember parts of that conversation. I don't even remember that game, and that's not for
I drank a lot of Coors Banquet and Tito's and orange juice screwdrivers during that game.
At what point, with your immense, this is a compliment to you, so please take it as, but with your immense football brain, knowledge, and ability to retain information, at what point does it become a burden when we have, the last 8-10 years like we've had?
I love football to the point where, like, it's the ability to recall certain things. It's like, hey, like, sport I love, sport I grew up playing. It's the sport that, I study film, study playbooks in my spare time. So, like, it's a good thing. But at the same time, it becomes a burden because when you're seeing something that is not right and you try to tell somebody, you're watching the game with some friends, let's say, and you try to tell them, yeah, that this is wrong and that's wrong. And people are so, they've lionized somebody like Frost to the point that they have. It gets to the point where people don't really want to hear it. And they don't want to hear it. And even if you tell it to them, they don't want to. Excuse me. So they just, they'd rather just believe all is well. And you see that a lot with our media too, saying, hey, we're 0-6, this is bad, doesn't sell newspapers. It does. Hey, we got to flip the culture. It can be a burden. I think that's why, like, my enjoyment of Nebraska football for the past 4 years has crept steadily down each year because it's like, I know this isn't a good product. It'd be like if somebody, was like educated at a, like a theater or Broadway school in New York City, wanting to be an actor or an actress, and they go and watch, a rendition of Oklahoma at their local community theater, and they're like, wow, this really sucks. This is not good. It's kind of like that.
But maybe you
Saturday in the fall, ready to and excited to watch the game. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess.
But oddly, I don't know if it was a little subconscious pull that you said Oklahoma because we play them this week, or if that's the only. That's the only musical,
I'm not a musical guy, if you can't
tell. But it's I think that the common theme, the overlaying sentiment that I've seen on Husker Nation online is the players sure are trying hard, but they're just not they're out of position. They're, I think one of the things that we could say the last 4 years is player development, right? And probably going back to the Riley era too. It's you can get all the 4-star and 5-heart guys you want, but at Nebraska, you should be able to up their, progress their ability. And we never really saw significant strides, I don't think. I mean, and then there's the transfer portal, so you can, you pick, whatever item you need off the buffet. We never, and I'm not going to go into like old man Greg here. Shut up, Josh, because I know what you're going to say. But it makes me miss the days of like, all right, a kid signs with you out of high school, and that's where he goes. You don't have the ability to plug in parts like you're going through the Sears or Mopar catalog.
And you bring up a good point with our recruiting, and you see this. You really see this in the Big Ten. When we sign a player at Nebraska and he gets on the field as a freshman, you either see it immediately that he's a player or you don't. Other schools, you'll see, a young guy get in there contributing special teams, spot duty, whatever, and then he gets better and better as the years go on. They develop. Our guys, if they don't show flashes as a freshman or sophomore, it's like they die on the vine. They just, it just peters out. Threw in another Sopranos quote reference for the fans of the show as well. It petered out, died on the vine. And that's really frustrating because when we have offensive linemen who by their third year in the program, they haven't cracked the starting lineup, you can take it to the bank that they're a bust. They're not going to develop. And then you see Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, all these schools, fourth-year juniors, fifth-year seniors. They develop over the course of time. So that's why development is such a big piece of this next hire. And that's why, people talk about Matt Campbell's lack of recruiting at Iowa State. Well, guess what? He develops guys. In Nebraska, you'd have more money to go out and get assistants, good recruiters. Development. Big Ten's a development league. You got to have it.
Okay, how many counters is Oklahoma going to run against us on Saturday?
Oh, we're going to see a lot of counter. We're going to see basically every run scheme in the book. Their offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby, is damn good. That was huge for them to get him from Ole Miss. So, yeah, we got to be prepared to spill, counter to the outside, box it back in. Shenander's probably got to opt to box it back in, so Garrett Nelson will have himself a busy day. They're going to run a lot of stuff at us. They use their tight ends very creatively. They love the pop pass. And, I'm hoping that we can hold on. I think we can score points on Oklahoma. It's just going to come down to getting a couple of stops.
So do we expect them to run the ball a lot more than throw it, or what do we expect out of Oklahoma?
It's a mix. I haven't watched I watched a little bit of their Kent State game, but they played UTEP in the season opener. I haven't watched any of that. But Lebby, when he was at Ole Miss, it's a very balanced offense. If they can gash you with the run, they'll take that all day. They need to mix in some play action, some pop passes, some RPOs. They'll do that too. It's a precise passing game as well. Dylan Gabriel was damn good at UCF, so I'm a little concerned about him against our defense. And like I said, if we can score points, defense has got to get a couple of stops.
All right, guys.
So what do we?
I'm going to show this. This is what I wrote down before the week 0 game in Ireland when it was the three of us and Todd. This is all of our predictions for the whole season. Clearly, you might as well just rip it up, right? It's a moot point. Everything is going to change. I will show you the bottom here. We had a couple of 7-5s, a 6-6, and shoe buddy, my 12-0 does not look too good. 3 games into the season. I'll own that, but we all know I'm a homer who likes Kool-Aid. Let us dive into predictions. We're almost to an hour and a half. God bless our viewers and listeners who've made it this long, and for keeping not only keeping our conversation going, but having their own conversations as well. I can do what I want, Josh. This is my show. But he says you can't throw him a picks out now. I'm not throwing them out. 10-2 is perfectly respectable, right? No. But this show, this new format of the show, being live to you all is a lot of fun because the interactions are great. And we appreciate everybody who's been with us from the very beginning and those brave souls who are with us to the very end. So let us go and get into our predictions. Our Sooner friend, sweet Trav says 48-17 Oklahoma, and nice enough to follow that up with no offense.
None taken.
At this point, look, we're 1-2 with a loss to Georgia Southern, and we just fired our head coach. So it truly is anybody's guess, right? In perhaps other that one just hurts. In other situations, maybe if it's not, I think number 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. Number 7, Oklahoma coming in. Then maybe the team rallies around, if it's Nebraska's not in any position to say, just any team. Maybe if it's just North Dakota coming in or something, we could say, oh, they're going to rally for a victory. Oh, this is Haas. I'm going to let you go first because we'll get it started, and I'll continue to show some of the other predictions from the viewers here while you go.
All right.
Haas.
You know how I gave you so much flack for not only drinking the Kool-Aid, but totally overindulging on the Kool-Aid before the Northwestern?
Yep.
All right. My cold, dark Husker fan soul has it's like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas morning. Like my heart's growing a little bit, since Sunday. I'm starting to feel a little bit excited again. I know that I'm going to regret this, and any OU fans, any Nebraska fans on here as well that want to give me flack after the fact, I'm going to pick the upset, Tom, and I'm going to get specific for you. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to mix in a little Kool-Aid with the Coors Banquet here. Big red Kool-Aid there. I'm going to say Nebraska is up 20-17 on Oklahoma late, gets a turnover. Anthony Grant salts it away with a walk-off touchdown to win 27-17. Anthony Grant runs for $160 and 3 touchdowns. Defense.
All right. I like it.
Yep. It's 11 a.m.
Is it my turn?
It's an 11 a.m. game, so I get to do my favorite thing for 11 a.m. games. Wake up, lift weights, come back home, then start drinking for the game. Simple job.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember Wisconsin beating us 70-31?
Oh God.
I have so many stories.
Since you brought up Sean Eichhorst, I'm going to bring up that game. What happened in that game is that, who was it? Burt let his offensive coordinator run the plays he wanted to run, didn't he?
Matt Canada, the Steelers OC now.
Yeah, we never saw their plays coming because he wouldn't let him run those jet sweeps before, and he said, pull the plugs out, kick their ass. And they did. So I'm thinking that Scott Frost was completely screwy on the offense and the offense that we could be running. For example, Logan Smothers has a package and comes in with the option plays, drives down the field and scores because Oklahoma is like, okay, we kind of expected that, but we're not really as ready for it as we thought we were. And then, the rest of the offense does okay. It does enough. And the defense gets 2 turnovers, and Nebraska wins 31-28 because, we have to have a 1-score game. It bowed by the fact that we have taken a big cancer and cut it out of the body of this program, and we are cancer-free, kind of. And we'll see what happens when you're cancer-free playing Oklahoma.
I don't know what we do to deserve some of our viewers and listeners. Here's another 34-31 field goal winning, but apparently you said something about Logan's mysterious package, John. So that tickled a particular funny bone for a friend of the show, Josh. And good. I've seen. I'm gonna start saying it like this. Sweet Trav. Say this a few times about Brent, a little bit more classy than his predecessor Lincoln Riley. He doesn't think he's going to embarrass Nebraska. We appreciate that. We're all about not being embarrassed. I guess it's time for my prediction then. Okay. I think the talent is there. That's what perhaps is the most aggravating. You go shopping, you go off menu a la carte, take the best of what you can get from receiving core, from quarterback, defensive end, Russia and O'Shawn Mathis. I mean, I feel like the talent is there. there has been an energy. There have been some unseen reins, that have been holding them back. It's going to be Mickey Joseph's first game as Nebraska interim head coach, but not only that, it's going to be his first game in any head coaching capacity. There are going to be I see a world in which Nebraska gets blown out of their own stadium, right? I mean, because, we've seen it. But this Kool-Aid is good, right? It's so tasty. Hastings, Nebraska's very own Kool-Aid. These players they're going to have to play for something. They're not playing for their hometown, home state, Golden Boy head coach anymore. They have to play for whatever pride they have, right? I'll with the caveat of knowing that I'm likely to be wrong, right? I still say somehow Nebraska shocks the world on a big noon kickoff Saturday on Fox. And in his first game, does what Scott Frost could not do in 4 seasons and change, and that's get a signature win. Mickey Joseph, Mark Whipple, Eric Chenander, if we have to, are going to lead this Nebraska team to victory. And I'm going to say it's going to be in the vicinity of 34-24.
Another 10-point win.
You know what's going to happen at the beginning of this game, Haas?
We're going to throw a pick six or something first play.
No, we're not. We're not. We're going to win the toss and defer. In the first play of the game, onside kick. Nebraska recovers. We're off and running.
It's like Bill Callahan in Colorado.
Start running off speed options.
I've actually thought about that. I wonder how much does get installed during the week as a nice little homage to the days gone by. Maybe some belly option, maybe some power eye at the goal line.
Yeah. I can see it.
Unfortunately, I could also see the pick six, so I'm really trying not to go down that road.
I can see myself going to bed soon too.
Yes, same.
Okay.
Well, this has been fun. I didn't know what to expect out of this episode because a lot has changed since we got together last Wednesday night. We were going in thinking, I think I said something to the point of playing with a chip on their shoulder, going to win by 40-something points against Georgia Southern. Well, that didn't happen. And then, boom, right around maybe 12 hours after that game ended, Frost is out. Mickey Joseph announced as the interim. I can't say we will never revisit Scott Frost and his time, his era at Nebraska, because that's what we do. We still talk about Frank Solich. We still talk about Bill Callahan, Bo Pelini, Mike Rathill. We still talk about Tom Osborne, Bob Devaney, Bill Jennings. We've there's not a coach in the modern era that we don't go back and discuss, mostly because John's been alive for all of them and then some. But this show ended up being a lot more enjoyable from my perspective. And again, we can't do that without you, viewers, listeners, engaging us with all of your great commentary. So thank you. Please come back again next week for the 5 Heart Podcast. Join a couple of old men not yelling because it's their therapy session on Monday nights with Todd and John. What? Oh, do you yell?
Just keep going. Just keep going. My God.
I haven't had time to listen to this week's episode yet, so I'm sure I'm missing something. But we're very excited that you're here with us, and we can't wait to see you again next week. Oklahoma's up. Our predictions are in. Make sure you follow Coronation and at the number 5 Heart Podcast on Twitter during the game for I can't say it's the best commentary, but it sure is commentary. But for John Dam Johnston, our founder and fearless leader at coronation.com, for Dr. Offense Ostreuter, I'm Greg Mahochko. This has been the 5 Heart Podcast, where we remind you this week and every week that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red.
Win the damn game.
I think it would be appropriate for Mickey Joseph to just get a signature win one game into his career after Frost couldn't do it for over 4 years. That's my end of the show.
I think that'd be